my view is that as inflation will reaccelerate in future, that investors should have money outside of the US dollar region, and that includes the close allies and vassal states or provinces of the US that are Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom, and New Zealand. The woke countries are all in the American empire. But I think it's a big risk to hold all your assets in US dollars, because I think that the US dollar will become, over time, not tomorrow, but over time, a worthless currency.
Marc Faber, the publisher of the Gloom and Boom report, is a world-renowned economist and analyst known for his blunt deliveries and shrewd, contrarian approach towards the markets. Faber's Gloom and Boom report provides an in-depth analysis on global economics and finance, highlighting unusual opportunities for investors worldwide. Faber is also popular for his complete disdain for the woke empire and his relentlessness in exposing the empire's many follies. Dr. Doom, as he is popularly known, recently joined Stansberry Research for an interesting discussion about the state of the United States economy and the health of the dollar in 2023. According to Faber, the ongoing de-dollarization trend led by the BRICS nations of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa has begun to reshape the global economy. Faber believes we have entered a new era of global economics and politics already, one where the United States dollar is one of many dominant currencies and not the world's reserve asset. For Faber, it is best for the world that the dollar system is gradually phased out to give room for a healthier, more sustainable multipolar world, where the Saudis can freely trade with the Chinese using the real or yuan. While discussing the many signs of a new global order, Faber describes how rapidly China has grown over the past decades. The East Asian country has grown from consuming only 2% of the global industrial commodities about 50 years ago to around 50% in 2023. Along with China, countries like India and Brazil have also been expanding and growing their economy, and Faber believes all of these countries are ready to challenge the United States' dominance. We will now bring you clips from the interview. Ensure you watch, share, and like the video, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our subsequent uploads. Lastly, don't forget to drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Thanks for the support and enjoy the video.
It's a philosophical question. What is a threat in life and what is a challenge and what is desirable? In my view, it is desirable for the world to have many participants in global economic affairs and in global politics. In other words, I think the system should not be a system where you have a kind of a currency, a global currency, like the dollar was, or before the British pound, or the Spanish peseta, and so forth. I think the best is that we have many different currencies and that people trade freely with each other. In other words, when China trades with Saudi Arabia, or China trades with Brazil, or China trades with Russia, there's no need that transaction should occur in US dollars. It should occur either in Saudi Real or in Chinese yuan or RMBs. In other words, I think the best for the world is that the dollar system that prevailed is gradually phased out, and this is going to happen because the balance of economic power, which was strongly in the hands of the United States in the 1950s and 60s, since the 70s, and especially after the 1990s when China really began to open up, this balance of economic power has shifted into emerging economies. China is a much larger industrial producer than the US today. In 1970, China only consumed 2% of global industrial commodities. Today, it's close to 50%. China produces more cement than the rest of the world combined. There's a big country. And another big country is coming up, India. It's now a larger economy than Britain, who were the colonial master of the Indians for years. It's a new world, but the American politicians, they can't accept the fact that the US is no longer the number one economic power in the world. It is still an important power, but it's not the number one power any longer. There are many number one powers, including China in some industries, India in other industries, Brazil in other industries. I mean, I'm in favor of gold and precious metals, and I'm in favor of a stable currency. I think money is far too important to leave it into the hands of some academics who've never worked in their life. They went to universities and write all kinds of paper that are entirely useless at taxpayers' expenses and so forth. But they shouldn't be in charge of essentially the budget of a country. So I'm in favor, of course, of a gold standard, but I don't think it will happen. Now, I think what investors should consider is that at the present time, the US is approximately or more than 50% of global stock market capitalization. And the US dollar is the unit of account globally. Most trade still happens in US dollars. I think over time...
According to Faber, a return to the gold standard, which will promptly take important monetary decisions away from the hands of inefficient people, will be great for the world. But it will not be allowed to happen. What the powers that be cannot stop, however, is the growing de-dollarization trend and how much it's going to impact the US dollar in the coming years. As a result, Faber recommends that everyone invests outside the United States and the other provinces of the woke empire. While it might be difficult to do that, the renowned economist says it is really important if you do not want to someday be left with a lot of worthless dollars. He believes Asia, South, and Latin America are all great alternatives for investors looking to escape the coming dollar collapse. Let's get back to his interview.
Investors should move money out of US dollars, but not only move out of US dollars and hold the funds in the US, they should actually invest in other countries, in stocks, bonds, commodities, and real estate. It's a process that is not so easy because they have to travel to these countries maybe physically and look at the investment opportunities and so forth. But I think it's a big risk to hold all your assets in US dollars, because I think that the US dollar will become, over time, not tomorrow, but over time, a worthless currency. It doesn't mean that the stock market will go down. As the dollar goes down, essentially, when the dollar weakens, it's a symptom of excessive monetary ease, of inflation in the system. And under these conditions, real estate and stocks tend to go up, and of course, foreign exchange rates and precious metals. So my view is that as inflation will reaccelerate in future, that investors should have money outside of the US dollar region, and that includes the close allies and vassal states or provinces of the US that are Canada, Australia, and the United Kingdom, and New Zealand. The woke countries are all in the American empire. I lived in Asia since 1973, in other words, 50 years, so I may be biased towards Asia. Now, recently there have been some discussions in Barron's at the round table. I was surprised of the 10 panelists. Not one mentioned oil. Not one. Not one mentioned Chinese stocks. One mentioned Brazilian stocks. And I agree. I think that in a world, I have educated friends who believe World War III has begun already. I'm more optimistic because I'm an optimist by nature. And so I think that we can avoid World War III, but it may break out when someone who is crazy at the State Department among the neocons or a hardliner in Russia or in China pulls the trigger and pushes a button. So in that scenario of World War III, I think the safest region in the world is Central and Latin America, because the war, when it breaks out, will be somewhere fought between China and the US, Russia, the US, Russia, Europe, China, Europe, whatnot. But it's unlikely to touch Latin America, Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and Colombia very much.
Faber notes that there is a small chance that the war in Ukraine escalates into a third world war, which would seriously impact the economies of Europe, the United States, Canada, and China if it also decides to call the U.S. bluff about Taiwan. Faber believes that leaves countries like Argentina, Colombia, Bolivia, and other Central and South American countries open to investors. What are your thoughts on Faber's interview with Stansberry Research? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.